So, uh, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. And Reka, I'll let you take it from here.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So thank you guys for coming. And thank you so much for taking the time. And thank you, Audrey, for reaching out a handful of weeks ago asking me to do this. It's something that I've become really passionate about over, well, years and years of design. So I'm excited to share it with you today. But basically, what had happened is that I started being a graphic designer and started to accumulate clients who asked me to create a brand for them, aka a logo, right? And we all know that the brand is way more than a logo, but they didn't know, and I kind of sort of didn't know. I went through psychology. I have a psychology background and then a design background, so I didn't really know all the business 101s or the marketing 101 or some of these other threads that are like kind of design related, but not really. So I knew the creative craft portion of it. So over time, while working at an agency and then kind of accumulating my own clients, what ended up happening is I was answering these really hard questions with these clients, and um, I didn't know it was basically a need for people to talk through who they are in their business and in their being. So what I have found is that oftentimes, as I like to call my clients and my people passionpreneurs, oftentimes I find that passionpreneurs are really excited about their craft. They are really good at this thing that they are doing, and they're not really aware. And why should they? They are not really a designer. Why should they be aware of what a brand is? But they're not really thinking holistically about their brand and what they're trying to do. So what I have enjoyed doing is working with people to kind of dissect who they are. So what ends up happening is you come into this business, let's say you love puppies, and you think, okay, what I could really do to make the world a better place is start a shelter. And then you start this shelter, and then basically it grows out of passion, and you start blending your personal passion for animals and rescue with your business. And what ends up happening is you don't know where you begin and where your business ends. And it's it's a problem in the sense that because our business grows out of passion, so we are passionpreneurs, right? We don't really know how to separate ourselves from the business. So that's where brand clarity comes in. I wholeheartedly believe that if we are to establish who we are as a brand and what we are doing, then we can create this clarity in business and in being. So it takes a lot of mindset work. I'm actually working on a course. I've been saying I've been working on a course for a long time, but it's actually really, really going to launch now, where I talk about way more than this. But we talk about mindset work, where you have to really kind of evaluate what kind of boundaries you set for yourself, for the business. Are you the type of person who answers emails at 10 p.m. because you just have this like, oh my gosh, I gotta get back to this person. And if you are, I would like to welcome you to a different way of thinking, which would be to create very established boundaries around your workflow, around your personality, around what works for you. Because what ends up happening is the entrepreneurial hustle mindset, which I just despise so much, so much. I hate the word hustle so much. And actually, if you look up the origin of hustle, is very negative. But the concept of hustle is really just setting us up for burnout, and and uh, and it's not sustainable, right? So if you're working all the time because you're so passionate about your business, but you're unclear on what you're doing, and you're not capable of hiring, let's say, extra help because you haven't been able to articulate who you are to another person, right? You don't have that brand clarity. What ends up happening is you go, 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 you work, 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 and you burn out, and it's not sustainable in the long run. So my hope is to teach, and some of my audience is actually designers too, who also didn't get this education. I'm kind of molding a lot of marketing and online courses and just client experiences into this thing. where if you look at some brand clarity, people will have a very specific angle. They'll have a marketing angle, they'll have a design angle, and I think it's just kind of this thread that runs through your whole entire business. That's a little bit of everything. But my hope is to teach this to people so they can kind of walk away from the business at 6 or 7 p.m. at night, and they can be with their families, and they don't answer the phone, at all hours. Or if they need to, they can set up the boundaries to have an employee and just have a healthy, sustainable business. So it's not as easier, it's easier said than done. It's not as simple as, ta-da, okay, we got it, right? But today I want to talk about a couple of things. So first and foremost, I want to talk about your visceral why. I like to call it the visceral why. And the three things we are going to mention today and talk about today are probably the hardest things I teach in the whole entire course. So if you're like, what just happened? A train just knocked me over, and these 60 minutes were too overwhelming. Like, don't worry about it. I'll share my email, and you guys can totally email me afterwards. But basically, I want to talk about our visceral why we do what we do. I want to talk about our vision and mission for our companies, and they are not the same thing. And then I may sneak in values, which is probably the easiest portion. So the visceral why for your company, the reason why it's really important to establish that is because it's this anchoring point when shit gets really hard, when you really don't want to get up, when you don't want to write that email, when you don't want to fire that employee, when you just don't have anything left in the tank, right? So you want to come back to this anchoring point for your business, why you do what you do. And I'm sure that you guys are in the business where you've heard this a million times. So Simon Sinek's work, I think his book is called Why. I think it's just called The Why. But even his it's a very quick read, but even his TED Talk, that's like 15 minutes, like old school. It's not like as fancy of it's like maybe a 10-year-old TED Talk now. It's like he still flips a paper pad. It's like not as fancy of a TED Talk as they are now. But he talks about people buy not what you do, but why you do it, right? So think of like, people don't buy the car because of the features. They buy the car because they can take you to a vacation destination, or they can take you to your grandparents or whatever, right? So it's selling people on the why on your business, not necessarily the features of your business, right? So, which those are important too. But so this visceral why is a very tricky question. And I don't know if you guys have some paper and pen near you, but what I would like you to do is, I'll go silent for a couple of seconds, but more than a couple of seconds. But what I want you to do is write down, and don't write anything yet, so just listen through for a second, but write down why you do what you do. And then when you answer that question, you're going to take that answer again, put the question why there, and re-answer your answer. Okay. So for example, why do you do what you do? You could say there are a couple of routes to go. I've done this multiple times, this work, and it gets very, very tricky and pretty intense. But you could answer because I want to make money. Okay, so that's your answer. Now you're going to flip that with a why again and ask, why do I want to make money? Because I want to be able to pay my bills. Why do you want to pay your bills, right? So you can keep going and going. And I want you to answer 5 times. So ask and answer 5 times the why question. And you may feel like at level 2 or 3, you're like, I'm kind of answering it with different words, but it's sort of the same answer, right? And that's okay. You may feel like you're gonna get stuck at a certain level. And again, this is a quick session, so don't get too overwhelmed by it. But it's kind of nice to see. So multiple times I have answered, and I'll just kind of share what ended up coming out for me. But one of them is, if I go down the money route because I want to make money, my final answer actually is because I want financial freedom. So it's really important to me not to have mortgage payments and monthly payments and subscriptions. If I want something, I want to buy it cash and pay for it at once. And that gives me so much anxiety that one of the reasons I do what I do is because I want to get to this place of financial freedom, right? So there's nothing wrong with wanting to make money if you go deep enough and figure out that the value, your personal value or clarity on money, is that you want to be financially free. The other one is, if I go down the designer route because I like to design things, because I enjoy beautiful things, I kind of came up with the answer of not kind of, I came up with the answer of because I believe in the female energy changing the world. So I think there's a lot of masculine toxic energy in the business world. And when people rewatch this, they'll be like, this girl is cuckoo, and that's fine. I almost exclusively work with women. I will talk about this in my vision and mission, but my mission is to brand badass female passionpreneurs. And it's that female energy and female voice that I want to amplify. And some people want to do something totally different, right? Like run a shelter for puppies. That's okay. But I believe that at the end of the day, we need to soften in our way we think about entrepreneurship, the hustle, the whole entire mentality, right? So if I start putting these puzzle pieces together and get clear on who I am, I'm the type of person who says, listen, enough with the hustle, enough with the overworking. Let's get clear on our why. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here. It's 1:15 on my clock. I'll give you like 2-3 minutes. Take out a piece of paper and a pen. Write down why you do what you do. And then whatever you answer, flip it back to the next question with an extra why. Okay? If you have any questions, let me know. I think all of you are muted, but if you unmute yourself, I'm happy to answer. But I'll go silent for a second. So just write, no wrong answer. We won't need to read it afterwards. If you panic that you'll need to share, you don't have to share. But dig in there a little bit, okay? I'll give you guys another minute. Okay. So since we have such a small group, is there anybody who does want to share? I just want to offer that if you're just something just came up and you really want to share, I don't want to take that away from you. Yes, no, maybe so. Okay, that's fine. You don't have to. I said you don't have to, and I know sometimes people are like, "Oh God, no," but if something just clicked, sometimes it's so nice to share that. Okay, okay. So how hard was that? Right? For a second, it's like, why did I get into this? And so the beauty of this is that you can kind of revisit this, right? If you have like two good answers that you feel really good, like you're getting deeper and deeper in the layers, and then it's kind of plateauing, That's okay. You can come back to it. I've been doing this why questioning for years, and it wasn't really until I started developing the brand clarity course that I thought I have to put myself through the ringer really and answer the questions that I really got to the root of it. So it takes work. So if you feel like it's a little wonky right now, don't get too attached to it. But I think it's fun to revisit it if you enjoy the exercise. Okay, so that's your visceral why. And what's really nice is, as I said, like this connects back to anchors you back into the business, anchors you back into doing what you love doing when coronavirus hits, when you lose a parent, where just really tragic, hard things are coming at you that you need a reminder for. So so keep it. I also firmly believe that you can pin a lot of things in your office, and things like that are kind of a nice reminder to put around your office why it is that you do what you do. And okay, so that's one of the first things that that I discussed, your visceral why. And then the other two components that I wanted to talk about today. I'm looking at the clock, and this is great. I talk so fast, so if you guys need to slow me down, let me know. I get nervous and I talk very fast. So, but we are good on time. So vision and mission. And what I would like to do with vision and mission is first kind of, well, let me give you the overall and then I'll switch the screen. But vision and mission are not interchangeable words. And oftentimes it's not something that people clarify because it's not necessarily something that they have on their website, or it's their mission statement may not be printed. I know Sydney works from home, right? So she's a designer, works from home. She's not going to print her mission statement on her wall in her house. Like that would seem silly. So then when the vision and mission statements become just kind of internalized and it's not presented somewhere, it's not on your website, not physically printed, we kind of forget about it or don't really go into detail to figure it out. But the reason why vision and mission are really nice the reason is that you are able to explain your business. It basically is the basic for your elevator pitch. You can kind of explain who you are to somebody who runs into you and says, oh yeah, so what do you do? Well, at my company, I believe this, and this is how we get it done, right? And then it also adds this level of not only you have a really quick, I'm sure you've met those people before. You kind of know what they're doing, but you sort of don't know what they're doing because they never clearly articulated what they're doing. It's like, yeah, they're in this one field, right? But you don't know, like, are you working on websites or are you working on, are you a print designer or are you a web designer, right? Like you may not know. It's like sort of a designer somewhere at an agency, right? Like that could be a generic statement. So when you have that clarity, you can explain to others way better what you're doing. So any kind of business setting, if you just quickly need to get the words out as you practice this sentence, you should be able to spit out your vision and mission really fast, really quickly, really easily at any given time. Like if someone asks you what it is, you should have the answer immediately. You shouldn't think about a single word. It should just flow out of you really easily. So the other reason, one is personal. The other reason is because if you start growing your company, and I know, like, for example, I'm a company of one and I'm never going to grow my business. But if I ever, for example, hire just a contractor to do social media work, it's really good for you to be able to explain who you are to somebody who's going to take your voice, who's going to take your aesthetic, who's going to talk about your brand, right? So oftentimes we forget that. Like, let's say you do hire an employee. If they don't really know what you believe in, they just know, like, okay, well, I'm a digital agency that does this, and this. If that person is asked somewhere, hey, what do you do for a living? They can't really properly talk about your company. They can't really be, they are not a salesman for you, right? But they can be a quote unquote salesman to tell someone else about your company because they are not clear on who you are. So this became very evident for me when I'm also a yoga teacher. And when we rebranded the studio where I teach, I'm also the brand designer there, but I rebranded the studio. I said, this is the most important work we'll do. And every single meeting, we repeat the vision and mission. And now every single teacher knows our vision and mission at the studio. And you know what happens when someone stops you at a store, like, oh, aren't you this teacher from such and such place? Oh, yeah, okay, so what do you guys do? Or can you explain to me? I can say, this is who we are, this is what we do. Because yoga studios, you guys may know, vary greatly. You can have a studio with very slow classes, very fast classes, very types of classes. There are studios for kids, there are studios for pregnant women, right? So if you're not clear on that, you could send somebody into a studio that is totally not the right fit for them. So it's really nice that you get clear on it and you know in your heart of hearts who you are. But then also as you grow and evolving, your employees, your staff, other people can know who you are. And then advocate for you. When you're not there, very clearly explain who you are. Okay, so vision and mission. So Audrey taught me how to take over. So watch me operate technology. I'm going to share my screen. And yes, I cleaned my desktop today just for you guys. So, okay. So, and I'm happy to share this PDF with you guys afterwards if you're interested. I put a couple of pages together. So, your vision and mission. I didn't want to do a presentation because oftentimes I find that I'm reading the slides and I'm not listening to the speaker. So, vision and mission are different in the way I don't want to show you the bottom. Okay. Vision and mission are different because your vision is this large scale future focused narrative, and it's not set in stone or static, but this certain direction your company fits into the world. And then your mission is the more succinct core action of how you accomplish that vision. So it seems kind of simple, but then you start writing and then it gets kind of confusing. So let me give you an example of like Tesla's is such a beautiful example. So if you think about the quest for sustainable energy, right? A thing that's happening in the world right now, right? People are trying to be more environmentally cautious and they want to create ways in which we can have sustainable energy, right? So they say that their vision, their large scale, big focus is to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, right? So big picture, they don't talk about anything other than sustainable energy, right? Vision. But their mission, succinct, core, actionable purpose is to create the most compelling car company, like electric vehicles car company, right? Their mission gets a little wordy, but to create the most compelling car company of the 21st century by driving the world's transition to electric vehicles. So if you go back a step, vision, large scale, transition to sustainable energy, right? Their actual mission is electric vehicles, right? Because that fits into the puzzle piece of sustainable energy, right? So it feels kind of simple until you start writing, and then it's like, hold on, what is what? So the other nice thing about vision and mission is that let's say we solve the problem of electric cars. Let's say everybody has one, it's totally safe, there's zero accidents, everybody owns one, we're done. Their vision can still say the same. They can still drive the world's transition to sustainable energy, but now it's not about electric cars. Now their mission could change to solar energy panels for every home, right? Or I can't think of all the sustainable things right now, right? But create another mission that still fits into the vision. So you see how that can work on multiple levels. It can be and I don't see you guys nodding. I only see one face. Is there a way for me to see all the faces? Okay, if Audrey's nodding, Audrey's nodding, then I believe that you guys are getting it, right? So it's this concept of a large scale, what's happening in the world, succinct core purpose of what you're doing. And let's say you solve all of the problems and you're now just selling electric cars, you're selling solar panels, you're selling whatever else, right? You can continue that business, or then you can say, you know what, now there's a new vision, now there's a new thing for us to achieve. So that's why it's not set in stone, because eventually, I don't think we all going to have electric cars in 5 years, but I think eventually, right, like some of these missions or some of these visions could be achieved. Okay, another one that's really good, I liked Ted's. Ted says their vision, so again, large scale, we believe passionately in the power of ideas to change attitudes, lives, and ultimately the world, right? So very vague, very big narrative of what they think about for their brand. But then their mission is to, it's actually, I think also their tagline, which is a little confusing, but spread ideas. So if you think about TED, you think about the TED Talks online, like you can watch all of those YouTube things, the curated emails, I get them based on specific things. They spread ideas, any channel they can possibly think of, email and web and person to person. And now all the cities, right, like that do the TEDx things, they spread ideas. That's their actionable, succinct way of believing in the power of ideas, right? So you guys see how the large gets narrowed down to the actual succinct, more core focus mission. Okay, and then lastly, I'll talk about mine, and then I'm going to give you some pointers, and well, we'll see how the exercise shapes up. Okay, so Paperreka, my vision is to mindfully unfold brand stories rooted in human connection and beautiful visual ecosystems. And the reason why I chose this vision is because I think there's a lack of mindfulness in business. I think that brands and interactions are not rooted in human connection anymore. I mean, we would probably be speaking face to face if we could, right? I believe in that human connection and connecting people to design. And I believe in beautiful visual ecosystems. There's a lot of crap design out there. And Sydney can probably attest to this too, where people just don't really care about what their brand looks like. And I'm on a quest to change that. So the things I see in the world largely is that we need more mindfulness, we need more human connection, and we need more beauty. Okay. So my vision is to mindfully unfold brand stories rooted in human connection and beautiful visual ecosystems. Then my core mission, because that's kind of generic, right? Like, what does that mean? Is she a skincare company or what, right? My mission is to brand badass female passionpreneurs. And then sometimes I drop the line with clarity and courage. So brand badass female passionpreneurs. So it gets so specific. Do I have male clients? Some, right? But I'm most interested in badass female passionpreneurs. And I even we'll talk about that in a second. I even put the word badass in there because if badass turns you off, we will probably not be a good match. I drop F-bombs left and right. I'm actually surprised that I haven't yet. And I'm just kind of rough around the edges and kind of edgy sometimes. And I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea, right? But I cannot come from a scarcity mindset to please everyone because there's no such thing. You just won't. So anchoring down into the brand clarity of I brand badass female passionpreneurs. Are there websites that I've done in my life? Yes. Did I enjoy them? No. I really like the brand work. I really like figuring out who you are, making a mark, creating that design. And it took me a long time to kind of hone in on that, right? Because for a while it's like, well, as a designer, I can do all kinds of things. Sure. But then the clients won't really know all the things that you can do, right? Again, anchor, root down into that basic thing. Okay. So what I want you to do. So is that all clear to everybody? Are you guys kind of following along? Okay. I get very excited and sometimes get like just too excited and hard to follow. So definitely stop me if something is not clear. So what I would like you to do is I'll give you 132. I'll give you 4 to 5 minutes on each. Okay. A vision and a mission. And what I would like you to do is write down keywords and buzzwords that are in your industry. And that may help you shape. Should I just go to values? Okay, no, pause. This is what we're going to do. We are going into values. Is there a way for me to share this with everybody so they can see it? I should have asked you this beforehand. So I have this page of, go ahead.
You might be able to drop it in the chat.
Yeah, you guys.
Although I'm not. Do you have it as a link or just as a document?
It's a document. Ooh, what did I just do?
I'm not sure if we can send a document.
That's okay. It's fine. I'll have it up here. Oh, there we go. I'll have it up here. But basically, so vision and mission are brand pillars that we're working on. But values is another one that I like to guide clients through. So this is just a giant, long, long list of adjectives, different things that you can be. So the reason why I'm pulling this before we actually talk about your vision and mission is because it's really nice to pull some of these words out. So when you start putting a sentence together, what your vision is, you're like, I believe in comfort, right? Because maybe you're selling slippers, or I believe in balance, and you talk about, I don't know, you're a fitness company, right? So, I'll try to minimize the screen so you can see this all of these words. But I want you to write down. So now we're going to jump back. So just bear with me for a second. So I want you to write down a couple of keywords, buzzwords, industry terms, things that are value ask, like important to you. Okay. And I want you to write that down. And then I want you to see if some of those words could be blended into a vision. Again, future focused, long narrative, ever evolving. And then if you could write down a mission. It's also possible that you have some version of something. If you have used specific ways to describe yourself in the business, you can totally write that down. But I want you to create a couple of sentences, and I'll give you guys like 4 to 5 minutes on each. And then what I'm going to do is zoom out of here, because I can probably do that, right? I wonder if I can do, I have 2 pages of words. Okay, well, write down some industry words. Start to create some sentences that may describe who you are, vision and mission. And I'll see if I can drop this in the chat. And holler if you have questions. Again, no wrong answers. You may not have this right away. It's like a week-long thing in my course where we talk about this. So maybe a screen. Nope. And of course, your vision and mission, those words can overlap. Like that's totally fine. But again, vision again, more larger, broader thing that you see. A world is moving towards a thing where your company can plug in, and the mission is that exact succinct thing that you're doing. Okay, we're probably halfway through, so start to write out sentences if you think that a couple of words have landed. And the first few vision and mission statements we write, let me tell you, are so bad. So don't even allow for it to get messy, right? Like you have to be able to process it out. And a lot of us are visual processors or verbal, or by writing things down, we process them. So just allow it to be what it is. That's totally okay. All right, let's do one more minute. Okay. Um, all right. So just want to ask again, anybody interested in sharing anything that popped up? No pressure, just asking. Okay. If you afterwards have some questions, or you want me to read through your mission and vision, um, I get very particular with words. So if you want to, you can totally share it with me and I'll help you through it. But okay, so does that make sense? Like, we create the why, the anchoring point, what we're coming back to when things get really hard. We create the vision and mission, so we are clear on where we belong in the business, and then we can outward project. If you think about having multiple employees, everybody being on board because it's the same vision and mission for everyone is a wonderful place to unite everyone, right? And oftentimes necessary. Like, if you're just a company of one or two, maybe it's not so crazy. But then as you grow and you have 50 employees, how are they all on board with everything that you're doing? Okay, so those are your vision and mission, and then the values. So I'll share with you guys. I don't know. Will you have access to everybody's email address, Audrey? Okay, cool. I'll share this PDF with you guys, because the last values are just a nice list of, it's just a list of words. You can have more words. I just collected, I don't know, 200 words, but it's a nice way to kind of have a value, or have a list of values. I always think about them as kind of a platform. It's almost like an inspirational poster. Like, I believe in alignment and adventure and these kinds of things. So values are really good words for that, because then you can always go back and speak about your brand the same way. So those are the first three really important vision, mission, and value, really important brand pillars that I teach my students and my clients. I'm going to stop sharing. Do you guys have any questions so far about anything, or does it make sense? Very quiet group. I'm like, we'll need so much time to talk because everybody will have questions. That's cool. Okay. Do you have any other questions that are not related to this? Like, does it kind of make sense why we go through brand clarity and you can see the value and what it does to your business? Okay, cool. Very cool. All right. So I highly suggest that you go back to all of these things and we'll share the document and my email address is on the bottom, but I'll put that in there. I highly recommend that you go back and clean this up. I think it's a really nice way to start your brand clarity journey. And then you can kind of decide if it's something that you want internal facing, like your employees will know and you will know, or you want external facing. Like on my website, I do say the line, I brand badass female passionpreneurs. It almost sounds a little more like a tagline than my mission, right? And it's not, I don't say my mission is. You'll find some companies online, right? Like that say our vision is, our mission is, and you can do that. But it's kind of your call. How much of this do you want it to be internal facing or external facing? No, kind of no right or wrong answer. But it will come in play with tone and voice. And this, I was like, if I have time, I'll dip into the tone and voice, but I don't want Audrey to send it in the email in case we get sidetracked. But tone and voice are kind of what becomes the next evolution from here, where you start writing and speaking and communicating your brand in the same exact way to everyone. So if you think of, I mentioned this earlier, like I'll drop a lot of F-bombs, right? Then you'll know that I'm not going to speak extremely eloquently, and I will probably use contractions. I'll say I can't instead of cannot, or it's instead of it is, right? So I start developing a tone and voice that kind of supports that. I oftentimes don't capitalize my words, and almost exclusively write in lowercase. And it's just a choice that I make, right? But it's obviously, you can kind of see, right? It communicates a little more casual, a little more easy. So if you want to be really formal and proper, your tone and voice will be the words you select, right? Like the values that you speak are going to be different. So let's say you have the value of authenticity. You can still have a different tone and voice than mine. So let's say you and I are both really valuing that kind of freedom and that kind of ability to be who we are. But in my case, it means that I'm a little crass or rough around the edges. In your case, it means that you are extremely honest and kind and that sounds like I'm not honest and kind, but but that you're maybe more eloquent and careful with your words and how you say that, right? And I'm just like, off the cuff, this is how I speak. So tone and voice ends up being this really interesting place for your brand where you can get creative and playful. And as you are developing your tone and voice, and I would highly actually recommend that you go through all of these exercises as the first person. If you have some people in your company or in your organization that understands this exercise, they can help you and go through it with you. But it's really important that 1 to 2 people develop this, because if it's just everybody's opinion of what the company, I mean, I guess you can brainstorm it, right? But you want it to be very, very cohesive. So when you create the tone and voice, then it's really nice to give it, let's say, in my case, for example, I don't really do a good job with all of the social media channels. It's just very overwhelming. And I've thought about hiring someone to do that work. I have to explain to that person how I speak and what it is that I do. So oftentimes finding people to fit into your company as contractors, or I think social media is probably, you guys can maybe tell me if you feel the same way, but that's the thing that is possibly the most important for our businesses to get the word out. But like, we kind of really don't have the time. When we do it, it's very authentic, but to hire someone in to be authentic for us, so hard. And there are beautiful, wonderful social media managers, even just in the Dayton area. And I know a handful of them. But for them to plug into who you are, they have to learn your brand. They have to learn your tone of voice. And my good friend Abby works with Ghostlight, and for a really long time, she would just work out of Ghostlight, the coffee shop right around from me here. Um, work out of Ghostlight, so she would know the type of people who are going in, the type of conversations they are having. Are these designers? Are these younger people, older people? Hipsters, not hipsters? And so she could really get to the inside of the thing because she spent so much time with the company. That's where she got her coffee. She knew what the new offerings were, and she did not pay me to tell you guys about how awesome she is. But that's kind of what it takes. So when we are our own people wearing all of the entrepreneur hats, which let's face it, we all do. We are the business manager, the salesperson, the designer, the social media thing. It just gets kind of so overwhelming. If we don't have the brand clarity, it's really hard for us to expand. So the more you hone in, the more the right people can come, right? So that scarcity mindset of, I just want to be this big, colorful thing to everybody. Don't be that. Be the crazy purple and bright yellow, right? And be that person who is like, okay, this is where I'm going. This is what I am. Because then everybody who jumps on board with you can so much more easily communicate your brand. And that also doesn't mean, when I talk about brand clarity, I see some eyes crossed that are like, oh my gosh, now I have to be this one thing. I'm not saying your brand or your person will never evolve. I'm not saying that you're not going to have different offerings that maybe maybe like, let's say Sydney doesn't start designing apps, right? Like, she can kind of understand and do that, but that's not her main thing. Maybe she will go there because the world is getting so full of apps and app design, right? So there's nothing wrong with evolving and changing a little bit, but at your core, you will still do what you want to do. Your why would not change, right? So even if I start designing uh, um, I don't know, furniture, right? Then it's still about beauty. It's still about mindfulness. It's still about craftsmanship, still some of those values that I already hold, right? So don't think of brand clarity as pinning yourself down, never moving. Oh my gosh, this feels really, really scary. Think about it as this really nice anchor to come back to that allows you to not feel so scattered, not feel like you are overwhelmed all the time. Because I think, again, to like kind of wrap it together, that's where that anti-hustle mindset can really shine. If we are always spread super thin and we are not really sure, like, oh, should we offer this? Well, this person started doing this. Should I start doing that? Is this the right? Oh, I gotta like develop a new product now. If it's not all fitting with the brand that you have established, then don't do it. If you're that yoga studio that never offered chair yoga for senior citizens just because the studios down the street is doing it, you don't have to, right? So if we don't come from that scarcity mindset because we are rooted in our brand clarity, then it's really nice for us to just be that thing, be that photographer that does like, what am I? I'm so terrible with examples on the spot. You know, the photographer that only photographs babies, or the designer that only does brand stuff. Because there's so much to go around in the world, and even in teeny tiny Dayton, Ohio. And I love this city so much. There are a million creatives, a million businesses who will need logos, who will need photography, who will need whatever, right? But the more you hone in on your skills and the things that you're doing, the more you can fit into the larger puzzle piece. So it's not a big deal that, you know, let's say you're a bakery and you're only offering sweet treats. Well, then somebody can open a shop next to you and they offer the sweet or the salty things, right? Like they have the pretzel shop and you have the cupcake shop. Doesn't matter. But it just creates this it creates this confidence for you to just act out of confidence and courage to be like, I'm really good at this thing. And then you know why your packaging is that way. You know why your products is that way. You know why you're using those ingredients because you're always rooted into that thing, right? Like, you know why you're making that furniture with that particular mahogany leg. I don't know, because it's sourced ethically from a certain country, and you visited that country and you went down and talked to the makers who made that thing, right? So now you can confidently sell that couch. Like, listen, it's not just this cheap whatever. We actually value craftsmanship, or value real hardwood, or, you know, something. So So don't be afraid to act out of a smaller place than what you think your company needs to be. And you can still dream big, and you can still change your vision and mission or add new products, right? But have root down into the basics and into the clarity, because then you're done working on that. Then you're not wondering how to explain yourself to somebody. You can just be like, this is who I am, gotta go, right? This is the thing that I do. Now I can do this other thing, instead of constantly re-explaining, reinventing, refiguring out who you are. And I did that for many years. It's like, I'm a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Like, no, these are the core values. These are the things I do, right? I brand. I'll letterpress print. I'll teach yoga. I'll do those things, side fun stuff, right? But at the core, I brand female, badass female passionpreneurs. Cool? Okay, so we have 5 minutes. Do you guys have any questions? No questions.
Hey, Reka, can you talk a little bit? So in going through the brand clarity process, you're sort of I think I alluded to it earlier, but you're choosing who you want your customers to be too, in a way, because you're not necessarily trying to attract everyone. How has that worked out for you, as far as building that client base? Did you lose clients? Were you sad about that? Did you gain more clients? And with those clients that you've worked with, since you do branding, have they had similar experiences, just as far as building that customer base goes?
Oh my gosh, really, really good question. So thank you for asking that. So in anchoring into the brand design, it wasn't a crazy leap, because I was mostly print design already, which does include a lot of the logo design. So I was never really like web or app or video based. But anchoring to that actually allowed other people. So I still haven't spent a single cent advertising. I've been freelancing on my own for 2 years, and I was at an agency for not quite a decade, 8 years or something like that. 8 or 9 years, and never ever in the process have I had to advertise my services, because as I started explaining to people that I'm a brand designer and do logos, that client went on to explain to someone else, she's a brand designer, she makes logos, she made my logos, she made my packaging, whatever. So it created a really beautiful community of word of mouth and advertising for me. So the people who come to me because they really like the thing I did for someone else. So when you do that, you're not really losing. You're gaining the clients that you want to gain. The concept of your target audience it's actually some of it is a bit tricky work, because you have to figure out who they are, and then you have to figure out what makes them tick, right? So you can just say my target audience are people who need to have logos made for them, but it's more in depth than that. So I have lost some clients. Mostly the projects or clients I have lost over time. Uh, this is you guys may have done similar things. I'll out quote myself. Like, I'll basically give such a quote that I know they're not going to say yes. And if they say yes, it's such a large amount of money. I'm like, all right, fine. I guess I'll design this thing for you. But most of the time, people will not pay that price tag. And then it's a really nice way to take myself out of the equation. But the clients I have lost, last year, I was kind of upset about one client in particular. Someone referred me, and it really seemed like he was kind of getting what I was doing. And I spent so much time pulling a team together of a photographer, a web designer. We all did these quotes, and it was probably like an 8 or 9 page quote, which I never do. I give you one page. On the first page, you see the breakdown of the thing and the price. I don't dilly-dally. There's no storytelling. Like, you just want to know what you're going to spend with me, right? So I'm not wasting your time. Here's the 1-page PDF. And created this long document, and he was like, I don't think we are the right fit. And I was so upset about it. And then I ended up having another project come in the same time. So it's that like scarcity mindset, like, oh my gosh, this thing is not happening. I spent so much time on it and really wanted it. And you know what happens when you want something like this, it just like can't flow through you very nicely. So ended up another lovely project ended up coming in. I was like, oh, thank God I'm not doing this other project for this other dude, because that would be way hard right now. But the clients I've lost, were on projects or things that didn't matter to me. So if you kind of keep doing the work that is very interesting to you, I'm answering this in a lot of different ways. So tell me if there are pieces I didn't answer yet. But if you keep doing that specific thing and those clients come back and you enjoy that work, then it's kind of a natural selection in my mind. It just the crazy people fall away, or the people who won the logo for $5 kind of fall away. Like I'm not gonna. You can go on Fiverr, or I don't know what those sites are called, and get a $5 logo. That means you don't care about that craft, and so I'm not interested in purchasing your services or supporting your work, right? Like I also got to pay my bills. I'm not going to design you a $5 logo. So some of it has been a hard pill to swallow because you just want to make the money and get the business going. But every time I relax into this concept of the right clients will tell their best friends and other clients and and friends and relatives. And if you go to my website, there's a very specific, I had one client recently say, my website was referred to her. She didn't know me yet. And then we got on a call and she said, I read your website. And I was like, she's my people. It was immediately like, she's my tribe. She's the type of person that I can work with. So if you communicate that specifically to someone just via website copy, it's really nice that it comes together as oh yeah, you're already getting the same language. We're already speaking that same tone of voice, right? So did I kind of sort of answer it? I
Yes,
like
thank
to
you.
rush, as you guys can tell, like 5 minute answer on this.
Anyone else who's on today have some specific questions or comments for Reka about the topic of brand clarity?
When do you think you're going to have your course finished?
So I think it's going to launch July 1st finally, which is huge because I've been talking about it for a long time. And I don't want to get in front of camera. You guys have been sweating all day, like so worried to come on camera today and just not into it. So I'm like, all right, I got to pull the trigger. The topic is so fun. People really, I've gone through it with a couple of beta testers and people really love it and just so pumped when they're like, oh my God, this is who I am. Like, this is what I'm doing. And it's not, none of it is rocket science. Um, it's just not a subject matter that is really easily accessible and easy for us to learn. So I mean, I'm sure that you handle a lot of these clients too, Sydney, where it's like they're asking you certain questions that you can kind of answer, and they're asking you about target audience, but it's not really your job to know what their target audience is, right? Like you're just kind of designing for them. But then they also don't really know what colors they like because they never really studied color psychology or design, it's like, or color theory, right? So it just kind of threads all of these things together. So it's fun. It's really fun. The whole entire thing is just really fun for me. So hopefully July 1st, it all goes live with my wonky little videos.
I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, I know. You've been very patient asking me once a month where it is. But I'll share with you guys. So if you give me the addresses, Audrey, or I'll just, you know what, I'll just give you the PDF. That way I'm not breaking any laws, getting your email address. And then on the bottom, it has my website. It has my contact info, email. But you guys, if you wrote down something today and you're like, did I even do it right? Email me. I'm more than happy to look at it with you and chat about it with you, and like not, as a sales pitch for anything. Just like I love this conversation. It's really fun when you get clear on it. So I'm definitely in your corner rooting for you if you're interested.
And so speaking of emails, so if you registered through the Eventbrite, then I have your email and you will be getting a follow-up. If you did not register through the Eventbrite and you found this purely through Facebook or a friend sent the link or something like that, if you want that follow-up email, I will be including Reka. So she'll be CC'd to be introduced to you, and then I'll include those PDFs as well. So if you did not register through Eventbrite and you want the follow-up, please drop your email into the chat, and I'll make sure that you are added to that list. And then we've been recording today's session, and so that will be posted on our Facebook, Launch Dayton Facebook and Launch Dayton YouTube channels as well. So you can always come back. I'll send that link out as well in the follow-up, so you can always refer back and rewatch or send it to a friend, et cetera, et cetera. But it looks like we're kind of winding down unless anybody has any final questions. Going once, going
No.
twice. Awesome. So thank you so much, Reka, for
Yeah,
doing this session
thank
with
you
us
guys
today.
for listening to me for an hour. I know time is precious, so I really, really appreciate your energy and focused attention and hard work.
I'll say we always appreciate when our members of our entrepreneur community are willing to come share their knowledge and their skills. And we covered a lot today, so I know I'm excited
Cool,
to
cool.
sit with some of this as well. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're welcome. Keep in touch, guys. Let me know if I can support you in any way. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.